Welcome into Sustainable Style with Wendi Russo. And today I'm really excited because I'm going to be interviewing Lottie Bertello, who's originally from Lima, Peru. She is based in sunny California. She's the founder and design director of LOTI. And LOTI is her love letter to the planet, written with kindness, intention, and respect. And she believes in rethinking upcycling. So welcome to the show. How are you, Lottie?
Oh my God, that was the most beautiful, well thought out introduction I've ever had on a podcast. So I really appreciate it. I am very good now.
Well, I love your work. I know you're on Instagram and you just started your business in April of this year. What inspired you to jump into the sustainable style space?
I think I've always cared about sustainability in different areas of my life. And it just didn't translate into my career so much. I was working in the industry as a designer and as a textile designer here in LA for different brands. And I started to realize there was a disconnect between like how kind of I live my life and then the career path I was taking. Of course, fashion in itself is a difficult industry to find sustainability, as it is the second most polluting industry worldwide, which is crazy. So I started thinking of the different fashion spaces, because within sustainability, there's so much you can do within fashion, right? Some people are concentrating on natural dyes. Some people are concentrating on advocacy for garment workers. There's like a lot of spaces. So I started to think about which one felt meaningful to me. And I knew I wanted to do something that was with textile waste reduction, which is why I looked into upcycling and also recycling. And upcycling just felt a little more creative almost. It was calling me a little more. So I started, it was not meant to be a business at the beginning. It was just a personal project. And then I saw so much opportunity in it that I developed it as more of a business in the last, a year in the pandemic, actually. Yes,
Well, a
I think
lot
it
of
was
things were created. Yeah,
yeah,
I
I
think
think
the
everyone
pandemic
had
was,
that.
you had time to create. That's amazing. And
Yeah,
upcycling is essentially taking something that is considered unusable or old or less worthwhile and
yeah,
upcycling them to a garment that is current today. You modernized it. So
right,
you've
right.
created your own design aesthetic. You said you started with men's shirts to begin with. Why is
Yes,
that?
I did. There, for working in the apparel industry, we would go vintage sourcing a lot. So we'd go to thrift stores. I would also go to Goodwill. Like I personally love thrifting. So that was something that I was doing on my own regardless. It was kind of like the only thing fashion related that was making me excited, that made me feel excited, still thrifting. So one day that I went to a Goodwill, I saw this huge rack of just a bunch of beautiful men's shirts, just perfectly pressed. It looked like a store almost. It was like the one area of this Goodwill store that looked pristine. Some of the shirts had the dry cleaning bags on them still. Just like
Wow.
to me, it felt crazy that people are just throwing this stuff away with the intention of, donating it, not throwing it away. But still, at this point, if I go to Goodwill outlet stores, which is the last stage of Goodwills, like anything that does not get sold at a
Oh,
Goodwill goes to this Goodwill outlet stores, which they sell clothing by the pound or textiles by the pound. And
yes.
there was this big stack of shirts. I ended up buying those. I went to another Goodwill store, bought a bunch more. It ended up being 300 shirts that I bought
Wow.
that day because I was looking for a blank canvas for me to experiment with upcycling. And it felt like men's shirts have these, big, if you cut the seams of a garment, you get two big panels of sleeves, you get the two panels at the front and the big panel at the back. And that felt like a lot of fabric to work with, and for me to start again experimenting and seeing if I could create an aesthetic that not celebrated the fabric and also had a strong visual DNA, which I think that's what people are attracted to of our brand right now. We have a very specific look. It is patchwork, but done
Yes.
in a different way.
So I saw you have a lot of beautiful dresses that, there's some feminine energy, and of course you live in LA,
Definitely.
so everything's flowy and it feels like it's for warmer weather.
Yeah,
And when
that
you
was
make
our first collection. Yes.
your dresses, what's your vibe that you're trying to emit with your design aesthetic?
I feel like I'm very inspired by like the times, kind of like what is happening right now, and like what do I want to be wearing. I think for me, feeling comfort now after spending so much time indoors, like comfort was a big one. But I still wanted to feel, I wanted clothing that evoked happiness. That's why we used like a lot of pastel colors and prints and whatnot. um I'm also very inspired by like street style and generally people watching. And I was seeing a lot of like off the body silhouettes, which I was very attracted to. So that's kind of all of these elements come into play when I was designing that. I did spend a little bit of time up in Sonoma at my boyfriend's family's vineyard, and being in that space surrounded by nature, of course, that's also very, very inspiring.
Yes, of course. Now,
Yes.
where can we find your clothing? Is it just on your website?
Our clothing is right now on our website, and we do partner with a couple of retailers. We have our clothing with a sustainable Latin American retailer called Paz Lifestyle, Paz, and then Lifestyle. They carry different um, Latin American brands, mostly Andean brands, so like Bolivia, Peru, Quito, Ecuador designers, all sustainable as well. We have a few accessories at a store in Williamsburg called By Liv Handmade. She's also an upcycler. She's a really great designer. She actually blew up during the pandemic and started her own retail store in Williamsburg because of that.
That's
So she
neat.
carries a lot of really cool designers, a lot of upcycling as well.
Mhm.
Um,
You should reach out to, there's a store in St. Paul, and she only could carry sustainable brands. She carries like Tonle and
oh, wow. Okay. I love that brand. Yeah.
yeah, and that's called Spoils of Wear. So feel free to reach out to her and let her know that I referred you, because
Amazing.
yeah, her whole store, and she's very interested in supporting entrepreneurs that are female.
Amazing. We love that.
Yes, so definitely, I think she'd be really interested in your dresses for springtime.
Amazing, amazing. Yeah, I'll definitely reach out. We are right now that I know there is, I think my first collection to me served as a starting point. And also I wanted to gauge if there was an audience that would be willing to wear these kind of designs. And I mean, more and more individual one of a kind clothing is more accepted. Like, thank God there's been some brands before me that have been doing some sort of like upcycling, one of a kind pieces. So now it wasn't like a totally new market to break into as much as it is new for I think most people. Um so it's exciting, yeah.
Yeah, that is. That's awesome. My very first interview was with a woman originally from Brazil. Her name is Claudia, and it's on. You'll see it. It's on
Yeah, I'll
YouTube.
check it out.
But she takes like sweatshirts, and she loves like, those aircraft suits you put on, you zip them, and then she adds
Oh,
different
so
patches
awesome.
on. I
I
know.
think people don't like it. It is hard to imagine these quantities because they are so large. Like, just like it's impossible for us to imagine infinity or grasp the concept of what infinity is. Like, that's the amount of textile waste there is in this planet right now, and it
Wow.
continues and continues and continues. I think for a little bit there was like a myth of like, oh, you shouldn't go to buy at thrift stores because it's gonna gentrify and the prices are gonna go up, but that's totally
No.
wrong. There is way too much clothing that gets thrown out, especially in a place like the United States. Like, we're very, very high on the waste producing, especially textile waste. So
Yes.
the sheer amount of clothing that gets left behind and continues to every single day is like beyond our imagination.
That's frightening, but you saw
It
it
is.
firsthand.
It is, yes, and I do all the time still. Like I love going to Goodwill outlets, and I every time I go there, I think I cannot believe that this is what they're putting out just today at this moment. Like these bins are going in and out and just piled with new stuff, new stuff, new stuff, because there is this weird way of thought that we think, oh, I'm just gonna donate. You know, I can just buy a bunch of stuff because then I'll donate it. But
Yes.
the, if somebody's not buying it at this Goodwill, then it's just getting thrown away. It is
That's
trash.
a
You are
very good
creating
point.
trash as much as you think you are donating. If you want to
Exactly.
donate, I would actually recommend finding like shelters, especially in winter, that like are taking specific items that they need, and that way you know that your donation will be a donation and not waste. But rarely do people do that. People, we all get so used to just going to the Goodwill or the Salvation Army and throwing it away.
Yes, that's a good point. This will help to enlighten people when they watch this interview too.
I hope
What
so.
message would you give to young people today about fast fashion and about shopping sustainably?
It like I feel like I have this conversation a lot with my friends now, and I love having this conversation because when I see them understanding what goes on behind fashion, like it creates a much more real scenario of what you're actually like, the nightmare that you're actually contributing to. Like there is nothing about fast fashion that will leave the world in a better place, whether it's like planet, people, if and also yourself. Like my friends that heavily shop fast fashion, they're the ones that are always complaining that they have nothing in their closet because it's stuff like it's stuff that you don't want to keep. You're buying trash, and we have to remember that yes, your cup of coffee is $4, but a t-shirt can't also be $4. Like you have to put it in perspective to like what you're buying, and curating a closet that you actually care about and that the pieces mean something to you will completely change your whole dressing experience, and how you feel about wearing clothes.
I agree with you.
Yeah,
That's really interesting you say that. I actually still have so much of my fashion from the 90s, and
so cool.
and you can't buy it again, and it actually is valuable still.
Hmm,
But it is interesting. And also, I think when you're shopping sustainably and doing vintage shopping, I love the fact that it's like treasure hunting.
totally. And it doesn't need to be expensive. Like I'm
No.
not saying, hey, you need to start buying really high quality clothing. That's something you can't do right now. Like that's fine. I think people are a little sometimes apprehensive about going to a thrift shop, but I think the coolest part about going through a thrift shop is that nobody's telling you like this is what is cool right now. This is what you should be wearing. Like you're gonna naturally gravitate towards colors, silhouettes, patterns, prints, whatever the case is that you actually love and can try and test out for a lesser price. But it's not anyone telling you like this is what you're supposed to be wearing, which is, I mean, which is trends, and that's a whole other topic. um,
Right. Yes.
but you're ultimately buying stuff that you yourself like, not because H&M is telling you like leopard
Very good
blazers are
point.
in right now, and you buy one and then you just have this leopard blazer in your closet that you were like, why did I buy this?
And I'm glad you brought up H&M because I did see that they had a sustainable capsule collection,
Uh-huh.
and it's higher priced than the rest of their fashions, but it's created with fabrics that they're saying are either recycled plastic or they're made of organic cotton. What do you think about larger conglomerates moving into the sustainable space?
It's hard because you never want to shame anyone that is trying to do better, but ultimately, I think any anti-fast fashion advocate would tell you that we're not looking for H&M to have better practices. Especially, like I would much rather them pay their garment workers well, treat them well, instead of using organic cotton. But also, the main problem with their business model is the overdeveloping of styles and the sheer amount of volume that they create.
True.
That is the problem. Like
Mhm.
also their little tiny capsule collection of organic, cotton t-shirts is only fueling the bigger monster, which is their core business, which is their not sustainable core business. Like that money is coming in to protect how their
The
business
main
model
business.
works, which is not sustainable. And
Mhm.
I hope that they're taking out some clothes that are unsustainable and swapping them with these more sustainable alternatives instead of adding more stuff. Because the main problem is we don't need them to make more stuff. We want to
Yes.
stop making so much stuff. So whether it's organic cotton or whatever the case is, we don't want it. Just
Yeah,
make
we don't
less.
need more
Make
collections.
less.
That's
Please make
all.
less. It would be better for the environment if you just made less and paid your workers.
That's a very good point. Now, who is your fashion icon in this type of space?
Fashion icon in this type of space. I mean, there is a lot of really outstanding work being done. I've particularly been very amazed by Aditi Mayer's work. Have you heard of her? She's
No.
fantastic. She's actually going to, and this I would love, maybe you could talk to her about this, but she's actually going to, she's an activist, she's an activist for not only, I mean, mainly sustainable fashion, but I think it all kind of links together. She's like an environmentalist,
Got
but
it.
it all sits under the same umbrella. She has worked and is going to continue working with National Geographic for
Wow.
different projects around the world, spreading awareness about sustainability.
That's
So
amazing. I
she's
love it.
pretty great. She is fearless. She will go to, these conferences with Amazon and call them out. And, we need more people who are willing to speak up. And
Yeah,
she
I kind of
does
wonder
that.
about those plastic bags that Amazon sends everything in.
Oh my
It's
goodness.
another problem. But anyway,
But anyways,
I
yes.
know. Well, I love what you're doing. How can people find your fashion? So your website I have here is lotiloti.com,
Yes.
and we'll post that as well for you.
Yeah.
And is there any other future that you have, a different collection or a different concept in your next collection?
Yeah. I mean, I think just through like 3 weeks ago, we launched our like fall winter collection, which we did with dead stock alpaca wools, which I got from this textile
Ooh.
mill in Peru. Yeah, it's really, really beautiful stuff. And it's a lot of like layering pieces that are meant to be like dressed up, dressed down. Like I'm really, really proud of this collection. I think it definitely, as a designer, makes me very happy and very proud. Really timeless design. And now I just started to think, I'm a little behind, but I just started to think of like what pre-spring will look like. And I think we're gonna partner to use denim scraps this time.
Ooh, I love
Denim
that.
thing. Yes, we just got the contact for this textile mill that makes denim in Peru. So hopefully we can do what we're doing right now for fall winter collection with the
I want to
alpaca
see
stuff.
that collection.
But with
I would
the
like a denim bustier, please.
okay, noted.
With maybe a little ruffle off shoulder sleeve.
Noted. Denim bustier with ruffle coming right up.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for taking the time with me today. I'm really excited about your
Absolutely.
collection.
This was lovely.
And I wish you all the best in your venture because it's still new and I see you have a bright
Yes.
future.
Thank you. That means the world, honestly.
That's amazing. Well, thank you again. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.